To our weekly live cast here at Stonemeyer Games. As usual, I am Jamey. I'm here on Wednesday at 10 o'clock in the morning in St. Louis. And I'm sorry for missing last week. Many of you had a lot of fun with the cat photos that I shared, and I appreciate you letting me miss a week. I was traveling. I was in Wyoming with my partner Megan and her family. We were there to celebrate her parents' 40th anniversary in Grand Teton National Park and in Yellowstone National Park. And we had a wonderful time. I had a truncated time because I was there for 3 full days, which gave me a lot to see in terms of nature and hiking and both parks and some good food. And then I came back a little bit earlier than expected while everybody else stayed for a full week because I was a little worried. Well, I was a lot worried about Biddy, who is old and sick and frail at this point, and so I was just really worried about him. But I had a wonderful trip, and it was a really special time. And we saw some beautiful things. We saw some bears. We played disc golf right around a moose that woke up right near a basket that we were trying to play disc golf on the slope of a mountain. We didn't play any games other than disc golf. We had long outside days with lots of steps every day, and so we were pretty exhausted, and we got back pretty hungry and exhausted by the time we got back every night back to our Airbnb. But we had a wonderful time. I'd highly recommend Grand Teton Village if any of you ever visit Wyoming, or if you've ever been there, maybe you know what I'm talking about. Good morning to those of you who have joined me so far. It's good to see some friendly names and friendly faces here. Um, I'm seeing a little bit. Hopefully this isn't showing up too bad, but I do see my lighting is always weird. My camera picks up like light striations for some reason. I don't know if you can see it, like right around my shirt. I can see it. It usually helps if I close that blind, those drapes, and turn off the lights, which I've done, but it isn't fully reducing that effect today. But hopefully it isn't too distracting for you. Well, Carol is joining us today from Denmark. That's amazing, Carol. What are you doing over in Denmark? Is this a family vacation or a work thing? Um, Chad says he can't wait to get to those parks. Yeah, they're really beautiful parks, and they seem family friendly. Chad, I know you have a little one on the way that you got to meet recently. That is, truly wonderful. And we saw quite a few families there. It was very family oriented. Ian says he has his new school schedule has his students at specials, so I have you up on an external monitor while I'm planning. Ian's already back in school. I've heard some of my teacher friends are back in school as well. Joe asked how Biddy is doing. So Biddy is stable. He was in very good care while I was away with our cat sitter, but it was kind of a last minute decision, honestly. And Biddy is my first pet. I've had Biddy for around 16 and a half years now. I got him as a kitten, rescued him as a kitten. And so all of this is very new to me in terms of a pet being near the end of their life. And so last Tuesday when we were getting ready to leave, like an hour before we were leaving for the trip, I was really debating staying here in St. Louis to stay with Biddy, just because he has intestinal cancer. He's very frail right now. And so I was really debating staying, but I was like, we have this beautiful trip planned. I don't want to miss out on this. I probably won't have a chance to go back to Grand Teton National Park or Yellowstone. So let me check to see if there's a flight midway through this trip. And fortunately, there was. There was one seat left on a flight on Saturday. And so I kind of made the decision to split it a little bit both ways. And the good news is nothing tragic happened. Like nothing happened to Biddy while I was gone. And he is just as stable now as he was before I left. But it's just one of those things where I didn't know, and I want to appreciate every minute that I have with him. So yeah, that's where I am with Biddy. Biddy himself is just as stable as he was last week. I suspect that the cancer is going to get worse. It's not going to get better. You don't really cure cancer in cats. You just kind of hold it at bay. And so my main focus with Biddy is quality of life and keeping him comfortable, keeping him happy. Right now, he is very happy. He's out on the patio, getting some sun and a little bit of shade. It's a nice day here in St. Louis, as Joe knows. Joe's here in St. Louis. Anyway, Dominic says that Yellowstone is one of his favorite all-time places to go. It was incredible. Yeah, we spent most of our time in Grand Teton National Park and Grand Teton Village in particular, or at least I did while I was there. And Yellowstone is huge. It's about 2.5 hour drive away from Grand Teton. So we drove up there and had a 13-hour day where we just drove around and stopped at many of the highlights, the hot spots in Yellowstone, or some of them. There are many of them. We stopped at some of them and would do like a 1 mile hike and do some sightseeing at that stop and then move on to the next stop. And so along the way, we saw a couple waterfalls. Probably the highlight was watching a giant herd of bison just kind of hang out on the hillside. These massive animals playing and rolling in the dust and crossing the street without caring about the cars at all because they're just as big as the cars, kind of playing with each other. And most surprisingly to me, talking to each other a lot. These bison, they were constantly talking to each other, which was incredible. We also saw probably the most famous thing about Yellowstone is Old Faithful. It is definitely a thing to see there. It's pretty remarkable. We had seen something similar to that in New Zealand at a place that I would say was actually a little bit more beautiful than Yellowstone, but the Yellowstone's area that is Old Faithful and all sorts of like, uh, uh, what is it? Geysers and things like that. It is just as otherworldly as the place that we saw in New Zealand. What is the name of the place in New Zealand? It might be Rotorua, but I might be confusing that with another place in New Zealand. But New Zealand has a place like that that is just as otherworldly and I would say slightly even more beautiful than Yellowstone. Carol says that she is in Denmark for a family vacation. Nathan says, I hope everyone's having a good week. You'll catch up later on YouTube. Carol says, sounds like you did the right compromise for my vacation. Yeah, it was the right thing for me, I guess. Yeah. Garrett says, when you go on vacation, do you try to firewall work as much as possible, or are you still doing a little bit of business when you can? Yeah, that's a good question, Garrett. I love my job, and so, and I don't. I guess one of the things I don't like about my job is I don't like catching up on my job after being away from it. I'd rather check in at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day when I'm on vacation, so that I don't have much catching up to do and I can just get back into the flow when I return. So that's what I do when I'm on vacation. I usually work for about an hour in the morning and maybe an hour in the evening. Sometimes it's more in the morning because sometimes fun things are happening in the evening, but I typically wake up before anybody else in the morning and get some stuff done. And I was doing this in Grand Teton in front of a giant window with trees and a hillside and a horse farm in front of me, or horse stables. And so I had a beautiful view to do my work in the morning. However, when we were out traveling in like Yellowstone, I didn't have reception at all. And that happened to be a day that I was really waiting on an email from our lawyer regarding some stuff that some of you might have followed last week with an unfortunate incident that happened. Not incident, an unfortunate thing another creator did. I won't go into it really here, but that was like the day I was dealing with that. And I was in Yellowstone and had no reception. So I was like waiting for this email from my lawyer and I just couldn't receive it or couldn't do anything with it until later that day. So if I have reception, I am doing a little bit of work and checking in on my phone from time to time while still trying to stay present to all the amazing things happening at that moment. Corey is here from Blue Falcon Board Gaming. Dan is here from the UK. He says, Facebook scrolled past your comment. He says, I hardly get to check in anymore, but I'm glad I can today. Thanks, Dan. Yeah, I always appreciate when anyone's able to pop in for a few minutes for these live casts. I appreciate it. He says, finally got to play the Realmiverse campaign for Rolling Realms and loved it. I don't have that one handy in front of me. Dan is referring to the promo promo pack for Rolling Realms that lets you play a little solo mini campaign that is replayable with different combinations of realms, unlike the solo mini golf mini game in Rolling Realms, the box. So both are viable ways to play solo. This is just a replayable way to play solo. I'm not doing Rolling Realms this week, but next week I will do a round of Rolling Realms with the new realms. I'm going to have these three up there: Lost Ruins of Arnak, Role Player, and Millennium Blades. I'll do a round next week with these, and maybe on one of the days I'll incorporate Risky Rewards so you can see what that looks like. I don't want to do that every time I play necessarily, but I will have it in play sometimes. This is a new pack that gives you some extra rewards, some extra bonuses that you can use when you play Rolling Realms. So I'll do that next week. What else is going on here? Chet says, how was cell service out there? It was good. I mean, when we had Wi-Fi, it just wasn't good when we were driving around. Chad says, how well do you do without being connected? Depends on if something is happening that day that I feel like I need to take care of. And really, it's the board game business. There's rarely anything that is truly urgent. As much as I want to take care of customer needs and things like that, and my coworkers on an urgent basis, it rarely is actually urgent. So I try to remind myself of that. But I'm someone who, I like to clear my inbox every day. I don't like to leave things waiting for tomorrow if I can do them today. So I struggle with that a little bit on vacation. Chad says, I look forward to trips when I can't use my phone. It's a little freeing. I enjoy that sometimes. And there were days, there were, for all of our hikes, I was really trying not to look at my phone. And it didn't even take that much effort to not look at my phone on the hikes that we were taking. There was so much else to see, and I didn't want to trip and fall either. I took some photos on my phone, but that was pretty much it. Tony says that our group played Charterstone last night, game 11, almost the end of the campaign for Tony. He says, I have to say I'm going to be sad when we play the final game, as even last night, our group was pleasantly surprised by the game twist. Genius. Thank you, Tony. That means a lot to me. I appreciate you all finishing the campaign. I know a 12-game campaign is maybe a little bit on the longer end of some campaigns these days. And I hope you have some memorable moments throughout the campaign that will stick with you. That was my goal in both Charterstone and the Rise of Fenris, that you could have some big memorable moments that will stay with you for years to come. So hopefully that's the case. Paul says, we as teachers completely understand not liking catching up when we miss a day or days. Yeah, Paul, I bet you can relate to that. Paul says, Facebook scrolled past. I'll scroll back down. Paul says, making plans for the substitute and catching up the next day is sometimes more work than just going in sick. Oh, I believe that. I believe that. Yeah, I can't even imagine. Thank you for the work that you do as a teacher, Paul. That level of service is truly incredible to me, and hopefully it is continuing to be a joy for you. Some days, more days than it isn't a joy. Guillaume is here from Montreal. Carol says, when the time for Biddy does come, I found having the pet shave a part of my cat's fur and putting that in a frame with a picture of them was really special to keep around. Just an idea if you are looking for anything. Thank you, Carol. Yeah, I have lots of photos of Biddy around the house. Try not to think too much of that day, but I do appreciate the advice. The advice is absolutely welcome, and I'll keep that in mind when that day comes. Adam says, first time viewer here. Welcome, Adam, for the first time from Wisconsin. He says, I've appreciated the resources that you provided throughout the years around board game design as I'm working on my first game. That's awesome. Adam, what stage are you in right now of your first game? He says, looking forward to getting more involved in the Stonemaier community, starting with some of these streams and chats. You're absolutely welcome here, Adam, whether it's on these streams or in the comments on YouTube, my game design channel, the comments on our Facebook page, or in Instagram. I usually try to include a question when I post my daily Instagram post. In fact, as I say that, I realize I have not posted to Instagram today. I'll have to do that after I get off the livecast. Tonight, I'm having 2 game nights this week. I'm hosting tonight. I'm going to one tomorrow, and I'm excited because like I said, we were so exhausted in Wyoming on our trip that we didn't play any games. I brought some little games. I brought The Mind. I brought a small prototype. I brought a regular deck of cards. I figured that would travel well. And I brought Sushi Go, my original Sushi Go, which is really small. It's a really small version of Sushi Go. But we didn't end up playing anything, which is unusual for our vacations. But meant we were doing other things that were fun as well. There's Walter in the background. Hey, Walter. Walter? No, he won't even look at us. He won't look. Chad says, I recently played a 2-player game of Lost Ruins of Arnak. I was a little disappointed because we only went to 2 new sites with the Guardians. Have you found this? Would it be better with more players? I have played Arnak mostly with higher player counts, but I have also played it just with Megan. I don't remember having any issues with that. You're right that we didn't discover everything in a 2-player game, but we still had plenty to do. I will say, Chad, that I believe the new expansion for Arnak is a 1 to 2 player campaign. I hope that I had that right. And so it's geared specifically for the 2-player count. So I'm guessing that will be really great for that player count, maybe. Maybe that was one of the things that the designers wanted to address. They wanted something specifically for that player count. So I'm hoping to play that soon. I think I have that expansion on the way, and I'll let you know my thoughts when I play that. Joe says he had his first playthrough of Expeditions over the weekend. Loved the game, didn't love that my wife won. Joe's wife. I'm glad you played it, Joe. I'm glad you had fun, and congrats to Kama for winning that game. Sam sends some positive vibes for everything happening with in general. I guess Sam, I'll take the positive vibes in general. So thank you for saying that. Chad says, have you seen this game on Kickstarter called Joyride? It looks like a chaotic Mario Kart on a tabletop game. You know, I've seen people backing it, but I haven't looked into it, Chad. Let's pull it up here. Joyride Kickstarter. Let's see what it's all about. So I'll say this. I love racing games, and I love Mario Kart. The thing that I'm also often looking for in a racing game is streamlined and simplicity. I want to jump into the game. That's one of the wonderful things about Mario Kart, right? You can sit anyone down with a controller in Mario Kart. They're not going to do well, but they can steer. They can take off and play that game. And so it's one of the reasons that I always go back to Downforce, because Downforce is so easy to get to the table and get people into the game and playing right away. And so it's one of the things I think about when I see racing games. Like, I'm not looking for complexity. I'm looking for simplicity. And this might be it. I'm looking through it. It looks like they have some beautiful custom dice. An arena style board, a little bit more than a regular racetrack style board. I see you set up the course a little bit. Yeah, I'll have to look into this. I'm curious how it is. I did also enjoy recently the game Heat. I thought Heat had definitely a step up in complexity from Downforce, but it wasn't too much. And I had a good time playing that at the Gamers Ranch a few times. Garrett says, what's my treat of the day? I did treat myself to a Starbucks the other day, so I'm still working on that. Usually one of these big Starbucks takes me around 3 or 4 days to finish off. So that is a bit of a treat. I also have some ice cream from a local place called Clementine's. That'll be a treat later today. And I have a sweet hand pie that I picked up at the farmer's market yesterday from Mr. Hand Pie. So that's another treat. Lots of treats of the day. If any of you are in the Stonemaier Games Discord, you can see that there's now a channel in the Stonemaier Games Discord for treat of the day, like whatever delicious thing you're eating that day, which I think is a fun little addition that someone added there. Ian agrees with Paul about the teaching observation. He says, substitute plans are more work than just going. Taking time off is tough. And I can't count the number of times a sub just ignored the sub plans completely or taught things a completely different way that confused the kids. Oh, that's unfortunate. Yeah, I bet when you find a good sub, Ian, I don't know if you have any influence over getting them back, but I bet you really cherish that and enjoy that when you have a great sub step in. Justin says, since you were gone last Wednesday, we probably get 2 weeks worth of spoilers, right? I don't have any spoilers right now, Justin, but I do have some fun stuff coming in a few weeks. I do have something that I'm itching to show you all. I will say that. On my desk right now, right next to me, is the Wingspan fan art pack. I have the early copy of it. We'll release it in a few months. I think probably in early October is the plan. I'm itching to show it to you. But I kind of want to reveal the box at a time where I can fully celebrate the art that we selected for the box, and tossing it up on camera isn't a way to do that justice. So I'm loving it. I can see it out of the corner of my eye. It looks so cool. The art in this Wingspan art pack is so varied and incredible, and I can't even say that all the art is great. Like there's a wide variety of talent in the art pack, but that is its charm to me. There's some incredibly talented artists. There's some really young artists who I hope will be talented someday, and for their age, they might be talented. But it's just such a wide range of talent in this pack. I am just so charmed by it. I hope you can tell how charmed I am by this Wingspan art pack. I can't wait to show it to you. So I'm not going to spoil it at this point, but I have it, and I'm excited to show it to you when the time comes. Sam says, did you see the announcement for Dune Imperium Uprising? I did, Sam, and I watched an unboxing it for the other day, and I have to say, I'm excited, but I'm also thoroughly confused by it, because when I originally heard about it, people were complaining about it for some reason, saying that it wasn't compatible with Dune. And then I saw the unboxing, and it looked to me like a Dune expansion, like a Dune Imperium expansion. So at first I thought, is this a new Dune Imperium game? And then I'm pretty sure once I saw that unboxing that it is not a Dune Imperium game, it is an expansion for Dune Imperium. If anyone understands the controversy around it, I'd love to hear about it. I have not figured it out. My best guess at this point is that it is an expansion to the core game, but there are some components in it that are only compatible if you have other expansions, which is something that we generally try to avoid at Stonemaier games. But every now and then, like people have asked us to include more Wingspan duet goal tiles in future expansions, knowing that those duet goal tiles, if we include them, are only going to be compatible if you have the duet mode for Wingspan Asia. But I think that's a reasonable request, and it's something that we'll probably do if we have some more ideas for those tokens, because there's no other great way to package them and send them to you unless we want to have them in a separate promo pack. It's just easier to include them on a punch board in another expansion. So anyway, if anyone understands that controversy with Dune Imperium Uprising, let me know. I also still have not played the second expansion for Dune Imperium. Corey says that he finally got around to playing It's a Wonderful World, and he says, I think it replaces Seven Wonders for me. Do you have a preference between the two? I do prefer Seven Wonders, but I get why people enjoy It's a Wonderful World, and I enjoy it too. If someone wants to play it, I'm happy to play that. It's an impressive game, but I enjoy Seven Wonders. Robert says the Stormlight deck building game is in the works. Excited? Jealous? Not jealous. No, I'm very excited that someone else is working on it, someone else is creating it, and that I just get to play it. I am very much looking forward to that. Yeah. Steve says in the Arnak solo mode, the Automa will discover Scythe. So there are a few that you can go to. Okay, that's cool. The Automa does that for you. Justin says, is there any kind of long-term planning for continuing making Rolling Realms promos, or is it just a keep doing it indefinitely sort of thing? Justin, currently the plan. So, I can let you know the plan so far. We have made, I think we've released around 15 promos for Rolling Realms. We have created with Corel probably another 30 promo realms for Rolling Realms. That's a rough number. Don't hold me to that, but it's a big pile. It's a lot of promo realms. The plan is to release almost all of them leading up to the release of Rolling Realms Redux, which is a new core set for Rolling Realms. It's a standalone core set with fully compatible with all the other promos and Rolling Realms, but it's 12 new realms in that box. And in that box, we're going to include a printed version of the living rulebook with little rule explanations for all promo realms. So that's why I'm tentatively trying to release all the promo realms that we have before then, leading up to that, and that we probably won't have more after that other than promo realms for Stonemaier games, because we want that living rulebook to be as complete as possible once we print it. But we're also not going to hold ourselves to that. If we have a really, really fun idea for another realm in the future, we might release it. I don't think there will be, especially since we know we're going to print a new realm for every new Stonemaier game, there won't be a hard stop for Rolling Realms as there is for other games. But I think it will slow down considerably. Like right now, we have so big of a backlog of Rolling Realms promos that we aren't actively pursuing new realms at this time. So yeah, that's the tentative plan. Also, I don't want to artificially just kind of push out all these realms that we have built up, the backlog of realms that we have built up. And so it is possible that we will release Rolling Realms Redux next summer, and after that, there will still be some promo realms that we've already printed, like that are in my closet right now, that we won't release until after that. That is entirely possible as well. Chad says there's a live play of Joyride on Dice Tower's channel. Awesome. I like to see those live plays. Curtis says, I am about to play Federation at game night tomorrow. Have you played it? What are your thoughts? You know, Curtis, I'll have to look it up. I don't think, I know I haven't played it. I can't even picture it. What is Federation? Federation. There are two games by that name. I'm guessing you're looking at the 2022 version. It's a neat box. Nice rating, 8.1. A lot of people seem to like this game. Become the most influential and prestigious delegation of the Federation. Plays 2 to 4 players. No, I know nothing about this. Components look really nice. Yeah, no. I don't know about this game, but I hope you have fun. Yeah, very colorful. Good looking board. Yeah. Let me know your thoughts. Yeah, I don't know anything about it. Jody likes the game Flamme Rouge, another fun racing game that's kind of a precursor to Heat. If you enjoyed that, I think you'll probably enjoy Heat too. Michael says, I've been infatuated with Blood on the Clock Tower since playing it at Origins. Have you considered a social deduction game or something we wouldn't associate with Stonemaier games, like a hidden movement or a game with a traitor, something that may have negative effects on the players? Michael, I think as you're saying that, you know that those aren't things that we typically put in our games. Not that I'm entirely against them. I do play games with those effects. Little story about that. We were way back in the day. We were planning to have a social deduction game in the Euphoria universe, and I reached out to my friends at particularly Brian at his company has changed names. So I can't remember the new name of the game. I think it was Pull the Pin Games, and now it's a different game name. And I asked him if he wanted to work on a social deduction game in the Euphoria world that we could publish. And as it moved forward, as he designed it, as I helped develop it, I realized more and more that it just didn't seem to fit in the Stonemaier line of games. And so we licensed Euphoria, the Euphoria world, to them for them to release the game itself. So there's a Euphoria game published by another publisher, something that is very rare for us to do, but it is published by this other company. I don't think they've released new copies of it in a long time, maybe not even since the original Kickstarter, but I do have it on my shelf. What is the name of it? It's Euphoria and then a subtitle. Euphoria. Oh, Leaders of Euphoria is the name. Choose a Better Oppressor is the name of the game. So we did kind of go through this process of thinking about doing that, realizing it wasn't a good fit for us, and encouraging and supporting another publisher in their publication of such a game in one of our worlds. Yeah. So, but the good news is the thing that you're asking for already exists. So I'd highly recommend checking out Leaders of Euphoria. I think it does something really cool with player elimination in that there is no player elimination. If you are eliminated, you are banished to a new faction that is created at the moment of you being banished from the game. So I don't know. I don't think I'd seen that in another game before. And that new faction can win the game. Anyone banished to that faction can win. It's a really clever little hook. As I'm saying that, I'm like, I want to get this game back to the table when I have a bigger group. Oh, Jake just discovered that we have a Stonemaier Games Discord. Yeah, it isn't something that we broadcast all that much, but it is noted at the end of our e-newsletter. So if you look at the bottom of our e-newsletter where I have links like to Facebook and Instagram and whatnot, there's a Discord link there as well. Hopefully it still works. Good morning, Josh. Steve said that Biddy showed us all the spoilers last week. Corlin says, have I had the chance to play Dogfight or Sky Team? Two awesome games from Gen Con. I have not. No, I don't think I've played anything from Gen Con other than Age of Innovation, the new Terra Mystica game, which I got to play right before Gen Con. Corlin says, congrats on how busy your booth and events were at Gen Con. Thank you. Yeah, I love that people came out and supported the booth. And huge thanks to the team of people who coordinated and ran and demoed and did all the work for Gen Con. None of that was me at all. I wasn't at Gen Con. My team there were Dave and Susanna and Alex. And there's also Meeple Source there, and Darian and a whole amazing team of volunteers. Yeah, it's pretty incredible what they put together there. In fact, I'm leaving myself a note right now. Okay, what else is going on? I haven't talked about any of my topics yet, but let me finish up your comments, and then I'll jump over to my topics in a moment. George says his group and him are still playing Expedition since its release, and I'm enjoying every minute. I love that you're diving deep into it, George, and I hope you're posting the scores on the leaderboard and that you get one of the top scores. George says, what have you been playing lately? You know, mostly last week when I was in Wyoming, we were at Grand Teton National Park and Yellowstone. We didn't play any games other than disc golf. We only played disc golf while we were there in terms of games. So I haven't played any tabletop games in a little bit. I tried to play on the plane. I tried to play a phone game. That's also a Steam game called Night in the Woods that Ambassadors picked for me to play. And I have to admit, I couldn't really get into it. The style of video game that I'm just not very good at, and so I don't end up enjoying it, are games that require dexterity elements in the game itself. Like you need to time your jump at the right time, or like run up and jump off a cliff. This is in a video game, and the game was asking me to do that fairly early on, and so I was like, I just want you to jump here. Just please jump on this little place. I see it more as a platform for exploration than a discovery than a dexterity challenge. So that was a game that I tried to play, but I just couldn't get into it. Let's see. Garrett said, but I do have game night tonight, so I'm hoping to play some games tonight. Oh, I actually did. I was playing some two-player trick-taking games the other day, so I did play a few games. I'm forgetting. One of them was had the word anemone in it. Let's Let's see if I can find the name of that game. Anemone. If I can spell anemone. Anen. Nope, that's not it. Anen? How in the world do you spell anemone? Anemone. A-N-E-M. Anemone. 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 It's called Enemy Anemone. Yeah, it's a cute name for a game. Yeah, we played that 2-player. We also tried the 2-player mode for Bug Council Backyardia, and we played the 2-player mode for what was the other one? I forget the other one that we tried. Yeah, there's some other trick-taking game that we tested the 2-player. It was Yokai Septet. Actually, it's a pretty cool 2-player mode. Garrett says, if I played Space Park from Keymaster Games, it's a light, small box contract fulfillment game with a randomly set up board using tiles to form a unique rondelle each game. I think you may enjoy it. I've not played it, but I always appreciate recommendations, Garrett, and I will add that to my list to check out Space Park. I do love what Keymaster Games does with their games. I caught up with comments for a moment, so let me talk about some things that are happening. One big thing, should have led with this, tomorrow is the 5th anniversary of My Little Scythe, which I should have had the box to hold up and show you. So pretend that I'm holding up the My Little Scythe box right now. My Little Scythe came out in retail 5 years ago as of tomorrow. And so if you don't have My Little Scythe, if you're watching this, you probably either have it or already decided that you don't want it. But if you are curious about it, from now through Sunday, we're going to have it on sale on our Discord, on our web store. And specifically, it'll be a price reduction. So you won't actually see, like, the website won't say it's this big of a discount. We've reduced the price of it by 10%. It was already discounted too. So it's a 10% discount on the price that's already there, price reduction. And if you're a champion, you also get a 20% discount on top of that. So it's a much lower price than normal if you want to try out My Little Scythe or any My Little Scythe product, including the expansion Pie in the Sky, just to celebrate the 5th year anniversary for My Little Scythe. It's still in print. We're still hopefully treating it as a way that people can have fun with Scythe in a shorter playing time if they want to play, or if they want to play with maybe a younger audience or someone who isn't as experienced with games, or they want to use it as a stepping stone toward Scythe. That's great too. But I also think it's just a great standalone game by itself without even the context of Scythe. We wouldn't have published it if that weren't true. So My Little Scythe, celebrate the 5th year anniversary for it. Keith says that it's his daughter's favorite game. That's wonderful, Keith. Thank you for sharing that. I did a post on Monday about education in games and how we support, have come to really, I don't want to say that we've always supported, but how we've come to better support teachers who reach out to us to say that they want to use our games in their classrooms or in after-school programs or related organizations like that. And so I kind of talked about how I have embraced that over the last few years. And also how I sometimes film videos for classes where they ask me questions and I pre-record a video answering their questions so that they can play it on their own schedule in the class. Just so I have a blog post about that. And my video this past week on Sunday was a worker placement video, a video about worker placement, if you're curious about that. Also, I do have a question of the day for you. Well, let me say one more thing, and then I'll get to your questions. I'll do question of the day. While I was here in St. Louis and Megan was finishing up her trip in Grand Teton, I watched the 2nd season of the show The Bear, which Megan wasn't really loving, but I think she appreciated it, but it's a pretty intense show. The Bear is about running a restaurant in Chicago. It's a fictional show about running a restaurant in Chicago. I watched season 2. I loved most of it except for maybe the last episode. And even if you have not watched The Bear, if you don't care to watch the show, but you do care about customer service, I would highly recommend watching episode 7 of season 2 of The Bear. It's on Hulu here in the US, and it's a pretty incredible episode. It's one that I'm going to be talking about on the blog a little bit because I just think it's a really powerful episode about customer service and also taking pride in what you do at your job. Question of the day, and then I'll get back to your comments. My question of the day today is, if you have ever attended a convention, specifically probably a gaming convention, but it's okay if you want to talk about other other conventions, nerd conventions, geek conventions, or conventions in general, um, have what are your thoughts on attending panels or attending events where you watch someone speak, where you listen to someone speak, or you listen to a panel? What if that's something you pursue? What are you hoping to get out of that? And if it isn't something that you pursue, why don't you pursue it? Is that like not just is that not a reason that you go to conventions? Or would you rather spend your time doing other things? And anything in between. I'm curious about your thoughts on educational events and speaking events and panels at conventions. What the good, the bad, like if you have experience going to them, like what you've seen that you really enjoyed, what you haven't enjoyed, what you're looking to get out of them, if anything at all, at conventions. Curious to hear your thoughts on that in the comments. Charles says, I was going to wait for my nephew to turn 6 to buy it, but maybe I buy it now and hold on to it until it turns 6. You definitely do that. I love that you're thinking ahead for your nephew for when he's ready to play My Little Scythe. That's really special, Charles. Ian says, I might have to take a copy of My Little Scythe from school to learn this weekend. I do have to learn it and to be able to teach it to kids before October. I did send some games to Ian for his classroom. Chat says, any good game suggestions to play with a 2-year-old? I already got Animal Upon Animal Jr. That's a great question for everyone playing here. I don't think I've ever played a game with a 2-year-old. Chad, I did recently play some memory style games with a 4-year-old. It wasn't My First Stone Age. It was like My First Stone Age memory game. And there was also a game that had the word dragons in it from Haba. But I look at Haba's games. I think Haba is great at making games for those really, really young ages. I don't know if a 2-year-old could do a memory game, though. It might be a little bit too young for them. But I don't know. I'm glad that you're already excited to play games with your new baby Chad. Charles says, I love the education-focused video. As a teacher, I love using games to teach some 3D modeling and printing techniques. That's really cool. Printing concepts to make things like inserts or pieces. That's really cool, Charles, that you're teaching 3D printing. Definitely part of the present and even more so part of the future. So I love that you're including that in your classroom. Steve says that he doesn't pursue speaking events or panels at conventions. I usually sign up for playing games and fill my day doing that. And Steve, I can say my experience is related to yours too. When I go to a convention, which isn't very often, but when I do go, I just want to play games the whole time and interact with people. I don't want to sit and absorb information because I feel like I can do that here. I can watch a video and do the same thing. So unless it's an event that involves a lot of participation, and even then, I generally even avoid schedule events at conventions, but that's just me. I kind of just want to go with the flow and play games. But that is me. That's my preference. Corey says, so Corey loves panels at conventions. However, the issue around here is that the turnout to those panels is very small, like 3 to 7 people in attendance, even though the convention is 500 to 700 people. So Corey, yeah, that's the type of thing I'm curious about. Like my experience at those types of panels has been the attendance is very small. And that people, maybe the perception is that they feel like they're missing out on something else that everyone else is doing. So what have you seen that works well for those panels? Maybe there's a way to do a panel like that works really well. And I think maybe the exception for those types of panels is when you have someone who is really entertaining or kind of famous. And that's your chance to hang out with them or feel like you're hanging out with them for a little bit. Chad says, I really appreciate the guys at Geek Nights YouTube. They make game heuristic, game design, and other panels along those lines at PAX Unplugged. Very smart and intuitive. So what makes that, I guess, Chad, I love that topic. What makes the panels themselves really engaging and fun and interesting to you, opposed to just you watching it on YouTube? Sounds like you do watch them on YouTube anyway, so maybe that's part of the point. So I guess what's the difference there? Like why would someone attend that opposed to just watching on YouTube? What are they getting out of the personal attendance? Although I guess that's kind of the same thing with a concert. Like, why go to a concert if you could just watch it on YouTube or watch it later? And the reason there it's a different experience. Like being at a concert does feel different than watching or listening to music on video or on your headphones. So maybe that's part of the answer. It's just it's a different experience. Being there live is different. Corey says Dragon's Breath. Is Dragon's Breath a game? I believe, let's see if Dragon's Breath is the game that I'm thinking of that I played, the memory game. Yep, that's it. Yeah, that is the cute little memory game that I played recently with a 4-year-old. It does some interesting things with memory where it's oh no, this isn't it. No, I thought that was it, but no, this looks a little different. There's probably another Haba game with dragons in it. But it does look cute. It does look adorable, and that could potentially work with a younger kid. Skylar recommends the game Hiss, Hiss, is great for a 2-year-old. What is the game I'm referencing? Because it isn't Dragon's Breath. I'm looking at it, and it isn't that one. Trevor says, I would only attend a panel or speaking event if it provides value to me in some way. It could be the content of the panel, the speakers themselves, or if my friends recommend it. Most of the time, panels fall flat for me, so I tend to be more selective towards them. So you're looking for value for you in some way. I guess, Trevor, I'd leave the question for you, too. Like, what is the value there to actually attend the panel versus just watching it later? I'm gonna write down that question. Yeah, is there the opportunity to ask questions live? That's one thing. Chad says, I did go to a Dice Tower panel because it was just fun to see them go through a top 10 list live. It was more entertainment than information. So entertainment versus information. I'm writing down a few other notes, feeling I'm missing out on the level of engagement. Like, is the level of engagement and participation of value? I know sometimes it's nice to, like, when I go to, if I've gone to a like a concert, of course, or a stand-up comedian, like, I don't want participation. I just want to sit back and watch and enjoy and be there with everyone else laughing. And so maybe there is a crowd element, like similar to going to a movie with a crowd that's really into the movie. That makes a difference. That can make a positive difference if the crowd is into it. So crowd engagement isn't quite the right word, but crowd, feeling like you're part of something bigger than yourself. I don't know. I can't think of the right word for what I'm trying to say, but maybe you know what I'm talking about. Nick says that he loves panels. I enjoy the informational aspect. If they can be entertaining, even better. I haven't watched a ton live, but I watch the recordings after a lot too. And Nick, I would say that's where I kind of am too. I enjoy watching that stuff later, but this is something necessarily that I go into at a convention when I feel like I'm pulled in a bunch of different directions anyway, and in that moment. Okay, Miles, thank you. So Miles says the Haba game was Draken Stark. So Draken Stark. Let's see if I can find this on Board Game Geek. They don't list it there, Miles. I wonder if they only list the English name on Board Game Geek. So Corey says that from the experience of local conventions, the conventions just don't promote those panels enough. So promotion and marketing them is a big factor. Paul says, have I spoken at any panels myself? My wife and I will be speaking at one this spring for our paranormal podcast we made and would love some pointers. Yeah, Paul has a very spooky paranormal podcast if you ever want to check that out. Paul, feel free to include a link in the comments here. I have spoken on a few panels. It is actually my preferred format than just being the marquee speaker, partially because I don't like public speaking, but also because panels don't require any preparation in advance other than the moderator. It puts the impetus on the moderator to figure out a list of questions. Whereas if you are doing like a slideshow or a presentation, that takes a lot of preparation in advance. So I do like the panel format. I guess, I don't know, Paul, I don't know exactly what to say. I haven't learned a lot from doing it. I haven't done many of them. And I don't consider myself a particularly entertaining public speaker. I wish I was more entertaining. One thing to remember that I've tried to keep in mind is that people showing up at the panel, even though they're showing up at the panel, they still may not know who you are. They probably don't know who you are. They are there for the topic, sometimes more than a specific person, unless you are a really, really famous person. And so I try to keep that in mind as I'm talking, to use inclusive language, including people who don't know what I'm talking about, don't know who I am, to include them in that conversation as much as possible. To keep in mind, I think a lot of people go into these panels assuming that everyone knows who they are and what they're talking about, and that I think is almost rarely the case. Yeah. David says, we have a thriving gaming scene and a great friendly local game store where we live, so I'm less interested in just gaming at conventions as it's not as much as of a value add compared to being at home. So I like the panel events. His favorite activity is teaching games to players, though. So I see. So David is saying that it is something that's a little bit different when he goes to a convention. So he does enjoy that's a different activity to do at a convention, that you can't just do at a game night. Joshua says, I was recently able to find a copy of Euphoria and the Ignorance is Bliss expansion at a local shop. Is there a way to remove my name from the waitlist on your site? I don't want to falsely imply that I'm looking for a copy. I appreciate you asking that, Joshua. There is a way, but it's probably more of a hassle than it's worth. It's totally fine. We already set the print run quantity. So you'll get an email at some point saying, hey, it's back in stock, and you can just ignore that email. But if it is really important for us to remove your email from that list, we can certainly do that. Chad says, I think it's the entertainment value between YouTube and panels. Yeah, I have entertainment here. I haven't been to one of the Geek Night panels, but I would if I had the opportunity because of the entertainment value. YouTube is great for information only. So information versus entertainment. So Joshua, the question that I'm asking now is, have you ever, or what are your thoughts on, and have you ever attended a speaking event or a panel event at a convention? Something where you're going there to maybe learn something or be entertained. And what is your experience with that? Like, why would you attend that? Have you had a good experience with it, a bad experience with it? What are you looking for from those types of events? Or are you not looking for it at all, which is also okay. Corey says, panel versus YouTube for the chance to immediately ask questions and get an answer, contributing to the conversation, networking with the panel speakers. So yeah, asking questions live, the participation, absolutely. Kevin says, I can only think of a few times I've went to a panel or something similar at a convention, like Dice Tower Live. Oh yeah, I need to write that down, like the Dice Tower top 10. I could see that being a lot of fun to attend. Especially since you know it's being recorded and you know it's being put on YouTube as well. Kevin says, and seeing the 3 actors who played Boba Fett at the Star Wars Celebration. In general, I would rather go with the flow at conventions rather than have like a scheduled event. I think that my intention of going to a panel is just to experience it live and be around a group of people and have a shared experience. So a group of people who, of excitement, I almost want to say. Like there was a recent one-day convention for Red Rising called HowlerCon, and I saw photos of the convention hall. Apparently a lot of it was spent in this convention hall, listening to Pierce speak. But also, it wasn't just Pierce talking to the audience. I think it was a lot of audience like shouting out stuff and asking questions and just being very vocal. Like the energy in this room, from what I've heard, was very high and a lot of fun to be a part of. And you're not going to get that from YouTube. So I can definitely see that. I'll make a note about it. HowlerCon here. HowlerCon. William says, in general, panels and educational events are a low priority for me unless the panelists are big names in gaming. However, panels are great calm breaks between the madness of conventions. I love that you brought this up, William. He says also, so it's a break in the action. Break in the action. He says, also, it's great to ask panelists questions in person. Panels are like your Stonemaier Livecast, but in person and with more of my favorite gaming people. Yeah, I'm hoping, honestly, these Livecasts, I'm hoping that it feels like those types of engaging panels where you can ask me something and I can answer it within minutes as long as I see the comment. The difference is, you may not feel at this moment while you're watching this that you are part of a greater audience. There are 63 viewers right now, but you're not in the same room as those people. So you lose that feeling of camaraderie. It's just a different experience. It's not better or worse than that, but it is a different experience than being in the same room as people who are actively engaging and getting excited about the person who's talking to you. Paul says, I've not been to a convention yet, but I would love to see some panels when I do eventually attend. I want to see the people I've been following and hopefully meet them. The sense of community would probably be pretty strong there as well. I can definitely see that. Oh, here's Miles, who was at HowlerCon. He says, HowlerCon was definitely very specific, but obviously he wanted to meet Pierce, meet fellow fans, and I did enjoy hearing Pierce's questions or answers to the Q&A and heard some answers that I hadn't heard from other things, like on podcasts. Yeah, that's a good point, Miles. I think if you follow someone like Pierce, the author of Red Rising, if you follow interviews that I do, you have probably heard me say some of the same answers and gotten a lot of the same questions. And that's okay. I love that people are asking those questions. I don't expect everyone to know the answers to all those questions. So I'm happy to answer them. And I try to put a twist on them when I'm answering the same thing. But sometimes I have my answers. I know the answers, and that's the thing that I'm going to say. And so it's neat to go to a live event and hear some answers that you haven't heard in the past, where maybe the audience is actually helping the person on the panel, or the other panelists are helping the person pull out some answers or thoughts that they don't normally have when it's just them answering an interview question one on one. Tim says, "Isn't this live cast kind of why a panel would be interesting?" In a way, yeah, Tim, yeah, I can, as long as there's active participation. This is so much back and forth on this. I don't know if panels are that much of a back and forth. I think sometimes, and this isn't, I mean, this might come across as a slight kind of, but oftentimes the people, yeah, oh, this is going to come off across as a slight. So, but honestly, some of the most entertaining people that I've heard on panels or speakers at conventions are people who like the attention. They're enjoying that. They're enjoying the spotlight, and they like to hear themselves talk a little bit. A great example of this, I think, is Patrick Rothfuss, the author of Name of the Wind. I think Patrick really likes to hear himself talk, and he's a really great speaker. He's very entertaining. Even though he says the same stories, he is very entertaining when he tells those stories. That is very different than this live cast, where yes, I'm talking the whole time, but I'm more interested in what you're saying. I'm more interested in your questions than what I'm saying. That's why I often forget to look at my own list of topics until halfway through the video, because I'm more curious about your questions and the things that you want to talk about. So I think that is maybe one key difference between what I'm doing here on these live casts and what happens on a panel or a speaking event at a convention. George says, "Have I seen the box interior of Matt Leacock's new Daybreak game? It looks like a teenager's recyclable lunchbox." Haha, I love it. I have not, but let me see if I can pull that up and see if there is an image on Board Game Geek. Let's see if they have the box here. I don't see a box image here on Board Game Geek, George, but I am very curious now that you mentioned that. Yeah, I just see prototype photos here so far. A few images from the game. Or maybe these are images from the game and they just look like prototype. Yeah. Chad says you might be talking about Fiery Dragons from Haba. Let's see if that is the game that I've been trying to figure out. The memory game from Haba that I played recently. Yes, that's the one. Fiery Dragons. Yes, that is absolutely it. Yeah. It's a cute little memory. It's not a roll and move game. You're moving around a circle, but it is a memory. It does have a memory element to it as you move around the circle. Cute little game. Victoria would love to know the name of Paul's paranormal podcast. Paul, let's see if you. Paul has noted it here, and I will say, I tried listening to this podcast, but it was too spooky for me. Like it is legitimately spooky and scary, and uh, I didn't get the sense that Paul and the other people on the podcast were trying to sensationalize it. They were just telling what happened and saying what happened, and it got under my skin so much that in the middle of working out on a bright sunny day, I had to stop listening to it. So if you like spooky things, if you like real life horror, essentially, check out this podcast from Paul. It is called The Well House Exorcism. Yeah. Trevor says, I think being able to engage with the panel in a substantive way would be huge, but without being put on the spot. Compare listening to music or watching a video of a concert is a great comparison. Dancing, singing along, you're able to engage with the concert, but the spotlight isn't on you. A panel could have a unique benefit of some kind of creative flexibility for engagement. Being able to have live voting of some kind or a way of leaving your mark on the panel or experience is a tough one, though. Yeah, that is tough to have the live voting element in real time. I wonder if Facebook does that. Can I do like live polls or anything like that? There is publish a poll on here. I'm a little afraid to click it. I'll click it right at the end of the live cast to see what happens when I publish a poll. To see if that's something that we can do live. Skylar says, I feel like there is fun in being a part of the crowd, the camaraderie. It's just fun to enjoy something together and then discuss thoughts about the panel together afterwards. That's true. Yeah, it's so rare that like you watch a video on YouTube and then immediately have a group of people to share that with. Whereas with a panel, you can do that live. Which leads me to wonder, Skylar, is there an ideal length for a panel or speaking event at a convention? Is half hour too short? Is an hour too long? What do you all think about that? Do I dare publish a poll to see if... Okay, here we go. I think I'm still live. I'll say, what is the ideal length of a panel or speaking event at a convention? All right, let's see if this works. 30 minutes, 45 minutes, 60 minutes, or we'll jump up to 90 minutes. Here you go, our first real-time live poll. I will save it. Let's see if that did something. Do you see a poll now? Yeah, I clicked save. I'm not sure if that really did anything, but yeah, we'll see if that's live. Let me know if you saw a poll pop up or if you see a poll on YouTube or on Facebook here. I know it won't be on YouTube. To see if you can, let's see, recent polls. Did I actually create anything? I thought I created it. I saved it. Yeah, I don't know. Let me know if you saw anything there. Nothing yet. No one sees anything yet. Yeah, I'll try again. There is a poll section here. I'll just ideal length for panel or speaking event. 30 minutes, 60 minutes. Just for time here, 90 minutes. Okay, I have the options. I've saved it. Saving it doesn't seem to send it anywhere. Yeah, odd. Okay. I'll figure out that later. Okay, the poll didn't work. Sigi says maybe I need to launch it. Yeah, I don't see a way to do that. I see publish a poll, but I see save. Yeah, I don't see a way to do that. Interesting. Anyway, thank you for indulging me there as I tried to do that. Joshua says length is entirely up to the amount of fun I'm having. I could go for hours if I'm entertained. I can totally see that. Yeah, same with concert, stand up. If you're having fun, it can be longer. Patrick says depends on the number of panelists. Chad says it baffles me why people find it entertaining to be scared. Yeah, I mean, well, it doesn't baffle me. It doesn't resonate with me, but I get why other people can find excitement and joy from that. Let's see, Kieran says, I've been at interactive RPG panels. When done right, they're incredibly fun and way more than just informative. So the so that would probably fall into the entertainment category, but also I'll keep it separate interaction. So when you are having an impact on maybe where the story is going for the RPG that's happening at the moment. A little bit like improv, maybe. Herbert Jan says, I have a new extra special version of Wingspan worked out. Can we get in contact about it? Herbert Jan, I appreciate that. We only have one designer for Wingspan. That is Elizabeth Hargrave. But I appreciate you creating something for fun. And you are welcome to post it for fun, post the digital files for fun on Board Game Geek to share with other people, get their feedback, get their thoughts, and also in the Wingspan Facebook group. You can post it there for people to get their feedback in the groups. Just post the digital files. Has to be for free. You can't sell this stuff. But you can, post it for free to share with other people and see what they think about it. George says, educational panel versus PowerPoint presentation. If the panel is done right and special, the main info and visualization can stick with you for some time after. Faster and easier than other methods, even for people who are passing by. If the panel has big illustrations and it's impressively made. Yeah, a lot of work can go into making a really special, memorable presentation, but it does take a lot of work to do that. Charles says, panel experiences have been better for me to attend when the audience and topic are very focused and concentrated on a specific topic and less just a general Q&A. That's interesting. So like general versus specific. I like that, Charles. All right, I think we've reached the end of the comments here. Sorry that the poll didn't show up. I'll have to try that in the future and see if I can get something better to work out. But Yeah, thank you all for joining me for this conversation. I enjoy hearing your questions, and enjoying your answers to my questions when I do a question of the day like this. I hope you have a wonderful Wednesday. I'm excited for game night tonight, and I will see you next Wednesday. Take care, you all.